How you doing, people? Welcome back to another video regarding the ESO changes to update 46. This particular video is about the Necromancer. So we're going to dive into what has changed and what you need to do about it if it affects your builds. So, what have they changed? Well, they've made it easier to use for people that were confused about stacking two skills that had to coincide with each other in order to make corpses. So, previously, if you didn't have the blast bones that drops a corpse when it dies, you would have this version and you could get a buff from it. But during that time, Venom Skull, well, technically Flame Skull, would drop a corpse. That doesn't need to be applied anymore. This no longer does that. Instead, it drops a corpse when it's finished if you're in combat. Venom Skull and Flame Skull on their own, without having this in the room, does actually drop one on the third cast. Now it says there's a 3-second cooldown here. It's once every 3 seconds from this skill type because they want to consider the fact that pets and corpses have kind of a cap on how many are in the room, and if you go too heavy then you can make too many spawn. So they put a 3-second timer on it. But again, it creates a corpse near the enemy up to once every 3 seconds, which technically speaking, if you're playing inside global cooldowns, is about right anyway. 1, 2, 3, drop. So that's a lot easier to maintain for those that were confused about this stuff before. And if you want to use them in side by side, you can, but you don't have to. You're not forced to do that anymore. Passives. Passives hurt. This here, Sacrificial Bones. This used to be a 50% bonus. It's now 66. So reusable parts is buffed. Basically, your pets are far cheaper now. So anything that coincides with any morphs of these, Skeletal Mage, Sacrificial Bones, or Spirit Mender is far cheaper. So while Spirit Mender isn't technically part of this skill line, you might want to slot that and take advantage of this passive at the same time to get it cheaper. At the same time, if you didn't slot this skill line and you only slotted the healing skill line, you wouldn't benefit from it. So while you can subclass and mix and match, sometimes you might not want to. This, you could argue, is somewhat nerfed. Stay with me. Might consider differently after this. So, under 33% health, enemies at that point will take a 20% extra crit chance from you. So you will elevate your DPS as their health goes down. Prior to this, it was a set amount per skill slotted. So technically you could fill your whole bar with Gravelord skills and have a very high crit chance bonus to this. That has now been reduced. So instead of forcing you to stack multiples of this skill line, now you only need one. So if you were making a build that was Necromancer and other classes combined, or Necromancer and loads of weapon skills, and you just simply couldn't fit that many Gravelord abilities on your bar to benefit from that bonus, now you can. If you were using 1 or 2 abilities before, you're now buffed. If you were using 4 or 5, well, it's gone down a little bit. But now that we can mix this with other classes, this does allow a huge crit bonus alongside other class executes. So if you stuck this with a Jesus Beam or with Killer's Blade, you've now got a much higher crit chance to consider. So it's all swings and roundabouts in that effect. If you are pure Necromancer and you had nothing but Gravelord skills on your bar, you may feel like you were somewhat restricted anyway because you couldn't fit other stuff on. Now you've got the option to do so, but you will feel a slight drop there if that was the case. Now this one is boosted to hell. Before, if you had a Gravelord ability active, your physical and spell pen would go up by 1.5k. It now goes up by 3271. So, while you may feel like you've got less crit chance because you are stacking less skills now, or even if you're not, you have a reduction there, your actual pen values have gone up by over double. And this is not for having lots of abilities slotted, it's just for having one active. So, Shock and Siphon, your Skeletal Mage, your Boneyard, even this version of your Gravelord Sacrifice, instead of Blast Bones, any of these are over time. They're duration based. So while they're active, you get this. So your flat damage has gone up. And that is especially helpful for people using medium armor, because now you don't have to try and find as many pen bonuses from light or sets. Increase your damage done with damage over time effects by 10%. That's pretty standard stuff. That hits hard. And that can stack with other classes now with no skills from this skill line slotted. You just need the passive. Bone Tyrant has been slightly altered. We've got Bone Tyrant passives to go over, and of course, one major active, which is Bone Armor. Now, what they've done with this is they've made it so that the corpse that comes from this, which you could take advantage of when you were at half the duration of this particular skill, won't actually land on the ground for you to consume. unless you are in combat, because people could very easily build up loads and loads of ulti prior to a fight and kind of sit in keeps in PvP if they really wanted to and stack up loads of ulti building by sucking up corpses that they're dropping out of combat. There's lots of different ways that could be abused, but they've made it so it only works in combat now. Now, the consumable corpse that comes from it was slightly bugged in the past, and it wouldn't actually suck up the ulti in some situations, but they've also fixed that issue. Now, Empower and Grasp is actually from the lowest skill here, or the lowest skill, the lowest one in the list. And this has been altered again. This morph here, Empower and Grasp, now improves the minor maim to major maim against enemies rather than increasing your summoned creature damage by 1,000. So what this does is each area applies major maim to your enemies and empowers your allies rather than a really, really awkward buff that nobody was really taking advantage of. Aiming this at your pets constantly was just, it was redundant. It was too expensive. You had to cast it too many times. It was a waste of time. So here, you just apply maim and empower. It's really, really simple. Obviously, you've got different benefits for each proc. So you've got the first area as a snare, the second is immobilize, and then the third is stunned. But again, each area applies this particular buff to your group. So happy days. Really, really powerful. Necromancer is going to love that maim on tap. Now, we've got some passive bonuses to go over here, which is here. Increases your healing received by 3% for each Bone Tyrant ability slotted. That technically has gone up. Last Grasp has also gone up because that used to be 1.25 or 1.250, so 1,250. That's now gone up to 2.4k. So, for having this skill line and that passive with no skill slotted, you just get extra health, which is pretty insane, to be fair. Now, when we go into the Live and Death skill lines, we've got some passives here to go over as well. Now, Curative Curse has gone up. If you have a negative effect on you, you have increased healing done. Your flat healing done for you and everybody else is higher, which is a substantial increase. A 4% bonus over what we used to have, because it used to be 8, is the equivalent of 2 single-piece monster sets. So that's pretty damn high when you're talking about healing stats. However, your critical strike chance for healing allies has gone down. So your strength is higher, but your chance is lower. Also, we've got a slight recovery reduction here when it comes to having your pets active. So they've given you more strength, but they've taken away your recovery. Overall, it's a pretty even balance. That small recovery reduction, because it used to be 200 instead of 155, versus the extra boost of healing and the slight crit removal. And then allowing ease of use for skills, extra flat pen for basically everything, and then a valid crit chance execute bonus, even if you only slot one skill. The balance across the board is pretty good, not to mention the actual increased max health just for doing nothing. So overall, they've given in some areas and taken away in others. It's not massively negative to the class, but it is definitely positive in some areas, especially from a DPS or tank perspective. The healing done bonuses are huge, but you are going to have a negative effect on you, which further encourages you to use this particular skill here. Oops, wrong one. Where you actually give yourself a negative healing effect. So you end up with a reduction to damage shields and healing received, so minor the file, but other people will benefit more from it. Again, with the subclassing, it was very likely that people would just go Breath of Life, but now instead, you could take this, activate it on yourself, and then maybe fire out this skill to make it stronger, or take a Breath of Life as well. It's up to you. But anyway, overall, it's pretty good, especially this. The maim for the enemies, very, very strong, but bear in mind it is capped to 6 individual targets. So, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think they should have left it alone? What do you think, people? And are you looking forward to update 46? It is a week away, so we're nearly there. Thank you very much for watching, and if you're not hitting the sub button already, make sure you do so on your way out. Bye-bye.